Bim! And guess what? We're live. It's Friday. It's the 9th of September 2022. And it's time for What a Week That Was. And what a week it's been, I'll be honest with you. I thought it was going to be all about politics at the beginning of the week. And not a lot really changed my mind about that. And then yesterday I switched the news on, I switched the telly on, and it was just nothing but news. And it was saying that the Queen's doctors had said that she was unwell and she needed medical care, and family members were rushing to get to Balmoral where she was in order to, well, basically, as we now know, say their goodbyes. It's one of them tricky things. Anyone passing is sad. She was a mother, she was a grandmother, she was a great-grandmother, and she was obviously friends to many thousands of people and respected by millions of people around the world. So yeah, it's a very sad case when someone passes away, but I do think that the media do kind of take things a little bit too far. For example, at 12 yesterday afternoon, it was said that she was ill, so they started a broadcast, and basically just repeating the same old thing over and over and over again. There was no news, there was no nothing, for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, until 6:30 when the news broke that she'd sadly passed away. But they'd filled 6.5 hours of airtime with very little. Then obviously when the news came that the Queen had passed away, that you forgive them then for having the rest of the night to go on about it and show repeats of clips that they'd made, but it was on all channels all night, and I don't get that. This day and age, if people are that interested in something like that, tragedy as it obviously was, then by all means watch the news channels. That's what they're there for. I mean, to put it on BBC One and BBC Two, as well as the Parliament channel and BBC News, all exactly the same thing, which is all them, you know, these people just saying the same thing over and over and over and over again. It just makes no sense in this day and age. I got it when there was no, you know, no news channels and nothing else. You only had BBC One, then you'd have to put it on the main channel. But you don't have to do that anymore now. Everyone's got, if you've got TV, you've got BBC News. All you need to do is put a little strip at the bottom of the BBC One, BBC Two, and just say coverage of the Queen's death on BBC News channel blah 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 blah, and do it that way. But oh no, we had to get blitz. So I thought, well, I'll have a look at BBC Three and BBC Four. They were turned off with a message saying watch BBC One for important news update. No sense made. Tragedy, yes. She was a queen, yes. It's awful. She was 96, as we'll see in a bit. She worked, as she said she would, when she was 25, sorry, when she took over the being the monarch of the country and the Commonwealth and everywhere else. She did say that she would, no matter how long or short her life would be, she would work every day for the people, and fair play to her, she did. You know, introducing a new Prime Minister, getting rid of Boris. Maybe she thought when she got rid of Boris that was enough. But anyway, more of that later. So yeah, some sad news to begin with. Go through it a little bit more, and we'll have a see how it transpired. I mean, like I said before, basically we got told that there was an issue with the Queen's health, and it all went everything went a bit solemn. Even Hugh Edwards, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, in fact before 1 o'clock in the afternoon, was wearing a black tie. I mean, did he have prior warning? Did he know before anyone else? Now all newsreaders are wearing black ties, or if they're female, a black outfit, to show sign of respect. Get that, not a problem. But instead of having rolling news all the time telling us stuff that we already know, why don't they have special programmes? They've known for a while that the Queen's going to pass away. Why didn't they have some, programmes that they could put up where, for half an hour we could see her when she was a teenager, or when she was in the army in World War II, and she was the mechanic and a truck driver and all that kind of thing. Half an hour of that, and then half an hour of on tours around the Commonwealth, rather than, all channels, they're all the same. People just sat in newsrooms talking about the news that had happened, but hadn't happened. I tried to pan it out as much as I could yesterday when I was driving home from my mother's, and I lasted 15 minutes and I ran out of stuff. I've got some more anecdotes though, which I've heard today, which I'll impart to you. She did have a wicked sense of humour, the Queen, it has to be said. We knew that when we saw her very recently for the Jubilee, and she sent herself up with good old Paddington Bear, of all people. And to be fair, the one thing that's actually made me almost emotional, I'm not an emotional kind of guy, except when I'm watching Coronation Street or EastEnders or something like that, but that's only because my life's took me to the situation where I'm watching Coronation Street or EastEnders or something like that, and that's what gets me down. It's not the actual stories or anything, but at the bit at the end, or near the end, when Paddington Bear very solemnly looks at the Queen, obviously it doesn't because it's a CGI and there's nothing there, but just go with it, and says, "Thank you, Ma'am, for everything." And that got me, because everything she's done. People say, oh well, the monarchy costs a fortune and we're taxpayers paying this, that and the other and everything, but the monarchy brings in considerably more than we spend on the monarchy, with tourists and all that kind of thing. Plus it gives us kudos with other countries who could only dream of having a monarch. They are republics, other dictatorships, things like that. Even Putin sent a tribute across, which was a bit like, I'm not sure we should be over enamoured with that. Maybe you could show your sorrow by just pulling out of Ukraine and do that as a tribute to the Queen, because that'd be a nice thing to do. He won't do that. Anyway, the Queen passed away around about 4:30 yesterday. Prince Charles, I think Camilla, and a couple of her other sons were there, but I don't think William and co actually made it in time. I think they only got there after the event, and Harry definitely was late. He decided to come up on his own and not in the same aeroplane as everyone else, which seemed a bit silly and a bit, under the circumstances, stop being like the Gallagher brothers of Oasis, arguing and falling out. This is, family matter, and a very serious family matter. She was everyone's grandmother. Are you alright, Smiley Mac? So yeah, it's a tragedy that she's passed, but 96, working till 96, that's the kind of thing I'd love to do. I won't get to 96, I won't get to 80, I don't think. Doubt I'll get to 70. But I'd like to think that I'll be working until, the very end, at the very least. But yeah, she did like to send herself up. So these anecdotes that we were talking about, that I've heard about today, one was one that was said in the House of Commons today, and it was said by, of all people, I nearly said Mother Teresa there, but Theresa May. If it was said by Mother Teresa in the House of Commons today, that would be a miracle. Mind you, she is a saint, but Theresa May is not. And Theresa May said that she was, I don't know, she said this in the House of Commons. Yeah, she did. She said it in the House of Commons. She said she'd gone for a picnic at Balmoral with the Queen, and they were setting up the picnic, and she'd got this piece of cheese and a plate, and the cheese had fallen off the plate onto the floor, which is basically on the moors, and she had a split second to decide what to do. So she picked it up, quickly dusted it down and put it back on the plate, and then put the plate on the table. And as she looked round, the Queen was staring at her and had obviously seen the whole thing. And you can imagine Theresa May was mortified. That's worse than running through a cornfield, let's be honest. But the Queen just looked at her and smiled And I thought, you know what, that's good. That's what you'd expect from her. And then another anecdote, again on the moors near Balmoral, I think it was. And the Queen was out with one of her men who she has with her helpers kind of thing. I don't know what they call butlers or something similar. And they were having a walk on the moors, and they come across these two American tourists. And they got talking to these American tourists, and these American tourists obviously had no idea they were talking to the Queen. And they said, you know, where they'd been, they'd done this, that and the other. And they said to the Queen, you know, do you come up here often? And the Queen says, oh yeah, she says, I live in London, but I've got a holiday place just over the hill over there, meaning Balmoral, holiday place. And they went, oh, that's nice. She said, so if you've been up here, then you've probably bumped into the Queen, haven't you? And the Queen apparently instantly said, I've never met the Queen, but this gentleman here, or guy with her, has met the Queen on many, many occasions. So the tourists almost ignored the Queen and started talking to this guy and asking what she's like, and he said, oh, it can be a bit cantankerous and all that kind of thing, but she's got a good sense of humour and blah blah blah. And then they have a picture, and they get the Queen to take a picture of themselves with this guy because this guy's met the Queen. And then the guy insists that they have a picture with the Queen. Don't tell her it's the Queen. So they have a picture with this Queen, and they don't say anything. They continue the conversation for a little while longer, and then they say the goodbyes, and the couples go their separate ways. And the Queen turned and said to the guy who she was with, she said, I wonder if they'll ever realise when they show the friends that who I actually am. And she started giggling, and you're like, little mischievous little so-and-so. That's brilliant. I love stuff like that, little stories like that. Hiya Phoenix Hero, hiya Smiley Mac, hiya JT and Rachel, hope you're good. So yeah, the Queen was had a very good sense of humour. There's another story that I've completely forgot, but I'll no doubt come back to at some point. A lot of people have got this picture all over their social media at the minute. I mean, I'm not sure if Paddington's passed away as well, but either way, walking off into the distance, and hopefully get reunited with Prince Philip if such things actually occur. That leads us then to obviously the moment a monarch passes, the next in line, the heir to the throne, immediately becomes the monarch. There's no delay, it's like that. So we've now got, for the first time in the majority of people's life on the planet, so basically anyone under the age of 70, Britain has got a king for the first time in their lives, including me. I might look old, but I'm not over 70. The king is, though. He is 73. He's the oldest person ever to succeed as the well, to become king or queen in the history of, I think, anywhere really. He's been waiting for a very, very, very long time. Oh yeah, we're making an effort. I've got me fancy tuxedo on. You know, you've got a black and white. You know, got to show some respect. So yeah, he was there, stayed overnight, and then he flew back to London from Balmoral on a jet, and landed nearby Buckingham Palace, and then he, surprisingly, because I watched this live, he did a walkabout at Buckingham Palace. Rather than just going in, he actually got out of the car and started meeting the public who were there, shaking hands and everything. I feel sorry for Harry as well, but I don't think William got there, and neither did Edward, or because if she passed away at 4:30, I don't think they were there for 4:30. So I think a lot of them missed out. I mean, it's not the only family in the world that it's happened to, but Harry definitely missed out. He didn't get there till it was dark. So yeah, I'll come back to Harry later on. But anyway, yeah, Prince Charles went for a walkabout. I don't think that is around. Is it? Yeah, it could be Buckingham Palace. He shook hands, got kissed a couple of times, once on the hand, once on the face, then joined up with the Queen consort, Camilla, and then walked back into Buckingham Palace as king for the first time ever. Obviously, that's a stupid thing to say. But one thing did strike me as being slightly amusing, despite everything that was going on. Not long after King Charles, I keep wanting to call him Prince Charles, there's going to be a few Freudian slips as we go along, but anyway, King Charles, as he left Aberdeen Airport, that's him at Aberdeen Airport, as he left there to get in the plane and the plane took off, they started doing gun salutes all the way around the country, which they do to mark occasions. They've done it obviously for jubilees, weddings, other state funerals, that kind of thing. So they're doing this 96 gun salute, and I couldn't help but think, are they trying to shoot down the plane that Prince Charles is in? Because, I don't know, that's just how my mind works. I don't think they were, because I think they were firing blanks. All the ammo's already gone to Ukraine to fire against the Russians. But yeah, it did strike me as being slightly amusing that, I think even one of the commentators said Prince Charles is in the air flying over back to London. Meanwhile, we'll have a look at the gun salutes around the country, and there's all these cannons, everywhere. Edinburgh, I think some in Belfast, Cardiff, and then obviously loads around London, Hyde Park and Tower of London and all that kind of thing, and they're all firing all these dummy rounds off, and I just in my head just assumed that they were trying to shoot down the plane with King Charles in it, because I don't know, what kind of king is King Charles going to be? Well, we got an idea when he did his address to the nation, which was earlier on. I was expecting it to be about 5 minutes long. It actually was 10 minutes long, which quite impressed me. And he basically, acknowledged his mother and all the work she'd done. And then he said, that his wife is now the Queen consort, and that his son, eldest son, William, is now going to be the Prince of Wales, and King Charles III will continue to do his work for however God allows him to do so, or words to that effect, paraphrasing. But yeah, it was quite a decent speech, but it was basically almost like when you get a new Doctor Who and they change sex. It was a bit like that. It was a similar kind of speech to what you'd expect from the Queen, but obviously it was her son doing it as the mantle had turned over. But yeah, the week started off, not I wouldn't say with a warning necessarily, but we were told at the weekends that, hiya Angela, that the Queen would not be attending the Highland Games, which is something she enjoys doing. That's one of the reasons why she spends so much time up in Balmoral. She loves the culture, she knows the local Celtic language and all that kind of thing. And she normally goes to the Highland Games. That's where they toss the caber and do all the other bits and pieces as well. But sadly, due to mobility issues, she couldn't do it. However, later in the week, on Tuesday no less, she did manage to meet the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, as everyone predicted. And Liz Truss went up to Balmoral, shook the Queen's hand, and got asked to form a new government. It was the Queen's 15th Prime Minister. She's had 14 presidents in her time as well. So she's well versed, and someone pointed out that her first Prime Minister was Winston Churchill, which in itself is like, what? And the second, the last Prime Minister, sorry, is Liz Truss. And if you look at the years between the two being born, there's 101 years. But then if you add Liz Truss's age onto that, so she lives average age 70, 80, then it's going to be about 150 years worth of Prime Ministers that the Queen has known personally. She's known people obviously in power, and people who run businesses. She's known their fathers, their grandfathers, watched them grow up. She's visited them on a regular basis, all that kind of thing. So yeah, she's been a very popular woman. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is we've got to remember that she was a mother, a grandmother and a great-grandmother to the royal family. And we mustn't forget that. I think we do forget that. We kind of think that we own her. I'm not a royalist by any stretch of the imagination, and I wouldn't say I necessarily shed any tears, apart from, like I say, when good old Paddington Bear kind of thanked her for everything at her jubilee, but that got me then. It was quite a nice thing to happen. But going back to Liz Truss, now it was reported when Liz Truss became the leader of the Conservative Party that she had, in no uncertain terms, tried to, well, she spoke about completely abolishing the royal family. She was only a teenager at the time, a bit like, what's that other guy called? Baldy guy, used to be the leader of the Conservatives for about 10 weeks. He did the similar kind of thing. He came out with some rubbish when he was a teenager as well, which keeps getting dragged up all the time. Well, she did the same thing, as she's saying about, we don't need a monarchy and all this kind of stuff. And then she meets the Queen, and 2 days later the Queen passes away. Conspiracy theory? Or just coincidence? You've got to think, haven't you? You've got to think about these things. But of course, that meant that Boris had to go. So Boris also went up to see the Queen at Balmoral on Tuesday to hand his resignation in and say their goodbyes. But before he went, he made this rather bizarre speech. I mean, I don't know why I'm shocked. It's Boris. Thank you. I'm showing respect. And the speech he made included some weird references. And I think the most bizarre one was that he was like a booster rocket that had done its job and had been ejected because he feels like he's been kicked out. And to be fair, I think they have kicked him out. He's been ejected from his job and he's now floating down and will end up somewhere in the middle of the Pacific. Well, I don't know how quick he is at swimming, but he managed to get himself back to the House of Commons today to do a tribute to the Queen. So fair play on him for that. I mean, he must have a good pair of arms on him to do those kind of swimming strokes. But it's not all about the Queen. There's other stuff happened this week that we may or may not be aware of. So we're going to move on. Oh no, we're not. We're just going to show this first. Just noticed this today. This is the nose cone of the Red Bull F1 racing car, which they've put a rather nice tribute on, I think. Very tastefully done for the Queen. I mean, Red Bull is technically a British racing team. It's based in Britain, and most of them are, to be fair. But yeah, nice little touch there. Anyway, on to other news. We're going to kind of go through the week the way it went, because that's what I normally do when I normally do these things. But obviously the Queen dying and the King ascending to the throne has meant that obviously that is the priority, and if people are listening on the podcast or watching, that's what they probably want to hear about more than anything else. But if you are thinking of going now, because I'm moving on, I will come back to it in a bit, but if you're thinking of leaving us now, don't bother, because there's other stuff coming on, and I swear it is a bit more light-hearted than the stuff you've seen elsewhere, where I can be, obviously. Now, the G7. This is an old picture of G7, but it gets the point across. They agreed to cap the price for Russian oil in order to not pay Russia over the odds for the oil, so that they can you've been waiting for the other stuff, brilliant, thank you, so that they can spend that money on buying weapons to then attack Ukraine. So Russia have basically said, oh dear, the Nord Stream has got oil in one of the turbines and we won't be able to switch it on for a long while because it needs a lot of time to be fixed. So we're sorry about that, but Europe will not be getting any gas from us for a long while. So now Russia is being accused of using fuel as a weapon of war, which is illegal, apparently. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, everyone's favourite, you may remember he got raided, or rather one of his mansions got raided in Florida, I think it was. And there were folders found which said top secret on them, but they had nothing in them. They'd been emptied. Now, they don't know whether or not they just took the top secret folders and left the documents in them in the White House, or whether or not he snaffled away these top secret documents. But either way, guy is not to be trusted, and one hopes to God he doesn't actually get back to being president again. Although the jury's still out whether or not I want Boris to be prime minister again. It could be a scary thought. What else has gone on this week? Oh yeah, this summer, which is finished now, 1st of September, has been called, or said to be, the warmest or hottest on record. I mean, it's almost like we knew that. It's the driest on record as well, and that is the whole of the country, but let's be honest, it's also most of Europe as well. So yeah, that was news before the news disappeared. Olivia, the young 9-year-old in Liverpool, more arrests have been made, which is good news. The bad news is no one's actually been charged yet with her murder. So fingers crossed, at least one of them people won't do a runner who has done it and will get what they deserve, which is banged up for a very, very long time indeed. Her mother spoke out this week and asked the gunman to bring himself forward, but let's be honest, that is not going to happen anytime soon. He's going to have to be caught the old-fashioned way. I don't think we're going to get any kind of thing from him, a confession or anything like that. That's just not going to happen anytime in the near future. Vladimir, he did describe the EU price cap as a stupid decision, and that Europe is not in a position to dictate prices. So yeah, that's escalating, bubbling away nicely in the background. Then not much left now in the British news, to be fair. The Manchester bombing, which happened 20 odd years ago, that has never had anyone charged with doing it. The building on the right, as you look at the picture, is the old Marks and Spencer's store, which was obliterated by the bomb, and on the right is the Arndale Centre. And if you can see the red bit, oh, where are we? There we are. If you see the red bit there, underneath that is where I used to work for a period of time. It used to be New Look back in the day, and that's how close I was to getting blown up. However, I left the job a couple of weeks earlier, and the bomb, when it went off, everyone had been evacuated. So it could have been worse than it was, but yeah, I do feel literally, I've not dodged a bullet, but I definitely dodged some shrapnel, because the devastation was huge, and a lot of Manchester has since been rebuilt around the site. The only thing that survived intact was a post box, which is still there to this day, and hopefully will be, even if we don't send letters anymore. It's very important that we do. And then something that's infuriated me, that's popped up this week as well, is there's a charity which is saying that children should not be allowed to call their teachers sir or miss anymore at all. What they should call them is teacher. So if you want attention of the teacher, rather than saying Miss Smith or Mr. Smith, you go Teacher Smith. Now, I mean, woke is something that some of it needed doing, but we are taking it too far now, and people who come up with these things genuinely should be rounded up and shipped off to Rwanda, and let's keep the immigrants, because they seem to have more idea what's going on than what these do-goody cardigan wearing ladies in comfy shoes seem to want to go on. It's ridiculous. And they say, well, no, there might be children at primary school who don't think that they are a he or a she, and therefore it would confuse them having to refer to people as he and she. So does that mean we're not allowed to call mum and dad anymore? We have to call them parents. Oi, parents. Or son and daughter. Oi, child. I mean, where do you stop with this garbage that's going on at the moment? Yeah, seriously, these people, rounded up. Okay, maybe not Rwanda. Let's send them to an island somewhere where they can live in their own little paradise and have their own stupid rules, and then watch it all fall down around them. The reason why we've got all the issues we've got at the minute with teenagers and all that kind of stuff, with antisocial behaviour and all that kind of thing, is because they know they can get away with it because no one can do anything to them. It's just absolutely insane, and this is just it's just bonkers. And it's not even in America. That's what gets me. It's not even in America. It is a UK based charity that's come up with this idea and is badgering the government to do something about it. Mad. Anyway, meanwhile in America, I can hear little cheers going up here, there and everywhere. We're going to talk about American stuff now, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of it I've kind of gone through already, but this is an American slant on it, and then there's some stuff that you like. Really? Only in America. So, we'll start off with NASA. NASA, as you know, we're going to launch their fantastically large rocket, 4.1 billion Artemis moon mission. But then they found there was a problem with it again, so instead of launching it last Saturday, what they're doing now is they are repairing it, and then... Oh, didn't I mention the price cap on gas and electric? Oh heck. Oh heck. So that's because I got sidewinded like a missile. Right, so not Theresa May, God, can't keep up with all these blinking Prime Ministers. Liz Truss went to the House of Commons. To be fair, this is exactly what's happened in real life, as in the real news. She went to the House of Commons yesterday morning and announced this big thing that would make her fantastic and huge and like the most popular Prime Minister ever, in her opinion, that the price cap would settle at £2,500. Now that is not the maximum anyone's going to pay. That is the average that anyone's going to pay. So for example, I would imagine I would pay considerably less than that because I don't use a huge amount of electricity or gas, whereas a family who live in a mansion that have got like 5 kids and servants, they're going to use considerably more than that. But it averages out at about £2,500 a year, and that's going to be paid for over the next 20 years on top of all the COVID stuff that we're paying for already, in order to save prices. Now the argument is, why are we doing this when we could be making the big companies who are earning billions and billions and billions of dollars profit, actually pay them profits back into their bills to reduce the bills? Plus there should be someone looking into why, when the bills go up, do they put the daily tariff up as well? Because it doesn't, because a cubic metre of gas goes up in price, doesn't make it more expensive to go into the pipes and get to people's houses. And if, like me, you don't use a lot of gas, why should I pay more for the standing order, the daily tariff, and then end up paying more without actually getting the gas for it? But no one's looked into it, and it's really annoying me, that, because It's not just me like that, there'll be other people like that. It'll be interesting to see when we get the new price paper through, and I've got the old ones as well as from my mother's, which show that the daily, I don't know what they call it, a tariff, but whatever it is, has gone up on both occasions and with different companies. So it would be interesting to see if it happens again, and if it does, why not people arguing about this? I get the gas price goes up and therefore they have to charge more per unit, I get that, and obviously electricity prices go up if it's produced by gas or oil or coal, because all them prices have gone up as well, so I get that as well. I get mainly the gas bit, but what I don't get is why the daily tariff that we pay for having gas into our houses is allowed to go up by such a big margin. That is what we should be looking into, as well as dropping the VAT from it, and looking at their profits and all that kind of thing. Right, so we get back to Meanwhile in America. So yeah, funnily enough, going back to the NASA rocket, the thing that had gone wrong on it was the booster. One of the boosters had a leak in it. Now, if we remember, former Prime Minister Boris, said that he was a booster rocket and he'd gone wrong as well, and that's why he was getting kicked off. So maybe it was a better analogy than what we thought it was. Who knows? Well, not Boris, because he knows nothing. Sorry, that was cruel, but fair. A pilot allegedly stole a plane and threatened to dive bomb a Walmart. I mean, why you would steal a plane in order to dive bomb a Walmart, I don't get anyway. I'm sure there are more ways of getting your point across that you're upset about the service or whatever from a Walmart. But he was threatening to crash a plane into a Missouri Walmart at 5 a.m. It was a Beechcraft King plane. It's America, isn't it? I suppose that's all you can say. Back to the moon. He was very good at flying that plane and landed it in a field. Well, he missed what he was aiming for then, didn't he? So he was not a very good pilot at all. And gave himself up and then got shot. Astronauts slam conspiracy theories to claim moon landing was a hoax. It said here ahead of NASA's second attempt of its Artemis moon rocket launch on Saturday. Well, obviously it wasn't, because it never happened. Former astronauts slamming conspiracy theories to claim the original moon landing never happened. I do think the moon landings happened. I'm more than 90% sure that they happened. I'm also convinced that the images we saw on the TV were not all necessarily filmed on the moon. I personally think that there was somewhere where there was a studio with a lander on it and dust and everything, and they filmed a few bits and pieces there, because in the 1960s they wouldn't have the technology to do live streams from the moon that were actually able to keep the connection. I mean, it's difficult enough now. I was watching the news, local news, the other day, and it was the guy in the studio, and he said, "Oh, we've got we'll talk to our reporter who's in the newsroom, which is like 15 metres down the corridor," and it failed completely. There was no sound. The picture kept breaking up, and he was like, and the newsreader, we went straight back to him and said, the newsreader said, "I don't understand why that's it. It's literally down there. I can almost shout to him and he'll hear me." But yeah, technology. So I think there were some things that may have been mocked up, but I do know that people who are not part of NASA or anything else have got telescopes that can see things on the moon that have been put there by man. So I'm 100% that man's been there. I don't necessarily believe that everything we saw was necessarily filmed on the moon. I'm not necessarily sure that there was a man with a afro reflected in the bubble of the helmet of a astronaut, but yeah, pretty sure that that wasn't all legit what they showed us, but they did what they could at the time, and I still think we got on the moon, and hopefully we will get there again once the Artemis gets sorted out. Now, we're talking about somebody who can fly a plane. This guy can fly a plane. A flight path showed a plane flipping the middle finger to Washington State. Now, this is zoomed in so you can't see it properly, but basically went up and down, up and down, up and down, and he drew, because it always leaves a little trail on computer screens, he drew the middle finger up to Washington State, as if to say, go away. Almost like a middle finger, but not quite. A New York storage billboard mocks Prince Andrew's abuse scandal. A Manhattan-based storage company is poking fun at Prince Andrew's scandal and the multi-million-dollar settlement he paid to keep it on the closet, with a massive new billboard around the Big Apple saying safe, secure, protected with minimal charges, just like Prince Andrew. It's a mini storage company who were just taking advantage of the situation, and why not? Not wrong with that. Guns again in America. I mean, I've literally got to the stage now where I only select stories that involve shootings because there's something about them that's either tragic or, well, they're all tragic, let's be honest. And it's, America doesn't seem to understand that we look at them and think, what are you doing? A 17-year-old girl was shot and killed while sitting in her car in Queens. The teenager was shot in the back just after 5 PM on a Friday while she was out on 136th Avenue near Brookville. She heard gunshots and felt pain. She was transported to hospital where she was pronounced dead about an hour later. 2 people have been arrested, but it's never ending. This is nothing to do with a gun. Could say it was a weapon, but builder's super son caught having fun with himself in woman's apartment. The teenage son of an Upper East Side apartment superintendent allegedly snuck into a tenant's bedroom and then pleasured himself using her underwear while sniffing another pair. The 19-year-old was arraigned in Manhattan Criminal Court on Saturday night on charges of second-degree burglary as well as a sexually motivated felony. Whatever floats your boat, but at least make it legal. Trump. He bashes Democrats, DOJ and the media in a 2-hour stomp. He basically fought back at Biden's speech last week and just kind of went off on one, and I don't think he does himself any favours. He might do other people favours in the fact they might think they're not going to vote for him anymore, because that would be fantastic. Temperatures are going up. The 1st of September 2022, 108 degrees Fahrenheit. 26 cities in the United States have reported their hottest summers ever, on par with the 1936 Dust Bowl, apparently. It was a scorcher, hottest seasons ever, with records set across the country. 74 degrees was the average temperature, putting it on par with the summer 2021, which was only last year, and the 1936 Dust Bowl. The whole world is basically either burning or drowning. And if anyone can't see there's a problem, i.e. America and China, then they definitely need to give their heads a wobble. Now, a while ago in Britain, I think it was Cornwall or Bristol or somewhere, a multi-million-pound yacht caught fire. A Florida man hospitalised with severe burns after a yacht catches fire. This one is in Florida. The guy hopefully is going to make a recovery. But yeah, it was a 75-foot yacht, so not a small yacht, a fairly big yacht, not a super yacht, but still big enough. and it caught fire. These things are made out of plastic and fiberglass, so when they catch, they catch. The thing is, they're not meant to catch fire, and there should be things on them that stop them catching fire, but once you get something like that on fire, it will self-ignite the rest of it, like a candle. So whether there was some damage on it where the flames could get into the superstructure, I don't know, but either way, stuff like that should not happen. A blind state Supreme Court Justice, Richard Bernstein, drives a race car to raise awareness. Raise awareness of what? Blind people shouldn't drive cars? I mean, that would work for me. He's demonstrated that someone who is blind can drive a race car as well. You're alright. If my Uber driver turned up and he was registered blind, I think I'd wait for the next one. There's a great game developer in Ukraine called Frogwares. No, me neither. But apparently there is. And they're giving people an opportunity to write messages on the Ukraine artillery that they're firing at the Russians. Now, I don't know whether this is genius or sick, but then what's happening to them is beyond sick. So therefore, by process of elimination, I think it is genius. It's a Kickstarter campaign to fundraise their upcoming game, obviously being Ukraine, Sherlock Holmes The Awakened. It's fantastic, well done. Now we get to the stage now where there's a lot of stories that are not all necessarily American, but they are being reported in America and may not have necessarily got reported here. Having said that, I think the next two are American, but anyway. A boy 15 arrested in a 17-year-old fatal shooting. A 15-year-old boy was arrested for killing a 17-year-old girl in a car in Queens. Again, what are 15-year-olds? How are 15-year-olds being able to get hold of guns? I mean, if over here in Britain, if there's a gun in a house, and there aren't many of them, but if there's a gun in a house, it has to be locked away securely, and the only person who can access that is the person with a gun license. So you can't leave the key lying around anywhere, or you can't give it your son, oh, go and get me gun or anything, because you are breaking the law. Obviously there are legal guns everywhere as well, but I'm just saying for legal guns, there is a strict protocol that you have to stick to. There's no way a 15-year-old could get hold of a gun in the UK unless, obviously, it was an illegal gun. But again, it just terrifies me what's going on. But then there are some stories that you're like, what? Really? What? A Brazilian fisherman survives 11 days in shark-infested waters whilst inside a freezer. So, a Brazilian fisherman, he floated in a freezer after his boat sank for 11 days and survived. I mean, that is beyond a miracle and beyond belief as well. But, you know, human nature, do what you can to survive. Guns allegedly found in bags of 2 young students as US returns from summer break. 2 young children in the US have allegedly been found with guns in their bags in unrelated incidents, not the same school or anything, as they come back from the summer break. Again, how are kids getting hold of guns? Come on, America, wake up. We complain about inflation in the United Kingdom and America and other parts of the world as well. In Turkey, it's 80%. 80%. Let that sink in a minute. That's practically doubled everything in a year. We are not having it good at the moment, but I mean, all things considered, I think we're doing okay. A youth football cheerleading league in North Carolina took flack for offering a rifle in a raffle. Now I always feel bad when I take a bottle of wine to a raffle, or something similar, when it's, you know, like a kid's Morris dancing thing or whatever. You just take a bottle of wine, then you get there, there's like 18 billion bottles of wine. But a non-profit organisation in North Carolina raising money for young athletes and cheerleaders got a backlash after offering a rifle at a prize at a fundraising raffle. I mean, maybe that's how the kids get the guns. Maybe we've answered our own question. I don't know. Instantly asks a question and answers it like that. UFO sighting or drones? It's drones, because let's be honest, there are no UFOs, don't exist, and we know that drones can do some amazing things. So thank you and good night. Parts of Los Angeles hit by 110 degrees as record heat continues. That's Fahrenheit, not centigrade, literally. That person in the water there, well, they'd be dead anyway, but they'd be in boiling water, they'd be nicely poached. A record September heat wave is continuing to broil, American term, parts of the west and southwest as parts of California reach 110 degrees and little relief is in sight. Whereas we've now got thunderstorms and heavy showers and all that, I imagine we may well get some part of this heat wave coming over the Atlantic at some point in the future. In it. Russian ex-reporter Ivan Savronov jailed for 22 years in a maximum security prison for treason. So a court in Moscow, so fair trial then, fair enough, has found a journalist guilty of treason. It's been seen as politically motivated, really, and he was an independent journalist who criticised the Putin administration, and now he's paying for it big time. Pope Francis says he cannot visit Kyiv or Moscow due to knee problem. Pope Francis will not be able to visit Moscow and Kiev until after a gathering of religious leaders in Kazakhstan in September on his doctor's orders due to a knee problem. Now, I don't know whether the Pope going to Kyiv and Moscow in one trip is necessarily a good idea or a bad idea. It can't be a bad idea, I suppose. It's got to be worth a try. Send anyone in there at the moment. But yeah, he's got a knee problem, so mobility issues. I've read that before. Someone else has got mobility issues, amazingly. It's Tom Cruise, who's promoted his new Mission Impossible movie by, where is it here? He posted a social media post in which he stands on a biplane manoeuvring in midair and calmly asks moviegoers to see the flick. "I'm sorry for all the extra noise," Cruise says while crouching on the fuselage of the aircraft, thousands of feet up in the air. Yeah, the guy is insane and bonkers, and recently, a bit like the Queen, he ended up talking to hikers and things like that. I think it was in the Lake District, wasn't it? And going to the local pub and having cups of tea and all that kind of thing. So yeah, and now he's sitting on biplanes thousands of feet up in the air doing videos asking people to go and watch his movie. The good news, there's some good news. Ukraine are claiming battlefield gains and liberating more towns as they try and capture back the area that was captured by Russia at the beginning of the illegal Ukraine war that Putin decided to start. So fingers crossed that keeps going in the right direction. Japan launches campaign urging young people to drink more booze. Japanese government wants nations youth to get drunk for their country, so they can reap the tax revenue from liquor sales. The Psyche Viva campaign, created by the country's tax agency. Yeah, we always say only in America, but I mean Japan, they're up there as well, aren't they? Now, Russia bans Ben Stiller and Sean Penn in latest sanctions. Now, Sean Penn's recently been in what looked like a really bizarre, boring crap drama about being married. I don't think he died in it either, which is unusual. And Ben Stiller is a has-been actor. So, yeah, it's they've been banned from going to Russia. I mean, I can't imagine many, particularly, well, anyone, including celebrities, apart from maybe the Pope, wanting to go to Russia anytime soon. As I was saying before, one part of the world is burning, other parts are flooding. Obviously, we were talking about Pakistan last week, which is still having a horrendous situation. But South Korea, 3 feet of rain. 3 feet of rain. That's 3 school rulers piled on top of each other. That's the amount of rain that's fallen in South Korea. 66,000 homes without electricity. Many missing. You just can't imagine stuff like that. We whinge and moan about our weather in the UK. We've got nothing to whinge and moan about, I'll be honest with you. I think we just whinge and moan for the sake of whinging and moaning. I might have a repeat coming up in a minute, but bear with us. Meghan Markle, this is before the Queen passed. Meghan Markle delivers first speech in Britain since tossing the crown. That's an interesting term the Americans use. Meghan Markle delivered her first public speech in Britain since ditching her royal status and jetting to Hollywood Hills over 2 years ago. The Duchess of Sussex, aka the Yoko Ono of the royal family, delivered the keynote address on Monday at the One Young World Summit, in an annual event for young activists who come together to confront the bigger challenges facing humanity. Obi Prince Harry watched on as she went on about gender equality and other crap that she seems to come out with, being Meghan Markle. But yeah, I haven't got much time for her either. It's enough of that. A Florida highway driver ties a giant dead alligator to the back of his vehicle. Because why wouldn't you? It's unclear whether or not he shot the thing. But either way, it was a large dead alligator and it was tied to the back of his Jeep. The massive creature was knotted up from its shuttered snout all the way to its tail and did not appear to be alive. Yeah, I don't think you'd be able to do that with a live one. But yeah, that's a... I think I reversed into some love, but I think we'll be all right. We'll just drive home, shall we? Okay then, let's do that. Yeah, brilliant. A drunk man spikes water that was being given out to runners in the Mexican City Marathon with alcohol. Not any kind of alcohol, obviously. It was tequila. He basically spiked... Oh, rum, sorry. He spiked the water's drinks with rum. Unknown how he got away with it, or how many bottles he did, or how much rum was drunk. I don't think you get drunk from it. Yeah, an odd story and no reason given as to why. A 77-year-old Florida woman attacked by an alligator in a gated community. Now, this is a question. Having everyone drunk running about laughing, yeah, but I think they notice. Well, you might not do. Although I find when I'm walking long distances in hot weather, I get more benefit from pouring water onto my t-shirt. It keeps me cooler for longer than drinking it. Although I do drink some as well, because obviously I don't want to dehydrate, but it just keeps me cooler for longer. An aggressive alligator pounced on an elderly woman out for a stroll in a gated Florida community over the weekend. The unnamed victim was walking near retention ponds in the Delaware community near Bradenton when the assault took place. Now, if it's a gated community, how did an alligator get in? Did it have a pass? Did it have a key fob? Someone let it in? Did it tailgate someone? Or is the water not gated? Which means if you were a robber, you could just paddle in there and rob all the houses. Nobody knows. A new carnivorous dinosaur species dating back 90 million years has been discovered in Argentina. There seems to be a spate at the moment of findings of dinosaurs. I don't know why there's a spate of these things, but there does seem to be a lot of dinosaur finds at the moment. A team of scientists discovered a new species of dinosaur that dates back 90 million years near the city of Plaza in the province of Neuquén, according to the Journal for the Papers of Paleontology. But yeah, there do seem to be. It's like all the dinosaur bones have kind of been discovered simultaneously and at the same time. A video shows a Ukrainian chimp brought back to zoo on a bicycle following an escape. Basically, the chimpanzee had escaped from a zoo in Ukraine and got found by someone, its keeper, and it rode home on his bicycle, because that's what you do when you're a chimpanzee. Could have ripped his face off, to be fair, so I think he got away with it pretty lightly. A Florida woman arrested after a child accidentally shoots a 5-month-old baby. The child was 3 years old. Again, how are children getting hold of guns in America? She's been arrested. She should hopefully have the book thrown at her, but she'll probably just get let off. It beggars belief that these things are allowed to happen on such a regular basis. It makes no sense at all. A Maryland county to enforce a teen curfew after deadliest month in decades. So teens in a Maryland county struggling with the deadliest month of crime in decades will be confined to their homes at night under a strict new curfew aimed at keeping them off the streets. Now, yeah, it didn't say it was the baby died, so that is good, but still, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. So yeah, they're doing a curfew on teenagers. Now, I saw something on social media, and I don't know if it's true or not, that McDonald's have banned teenagers, under 16s or whatever, going into their restaurants after 6 o'clock at night or something daft like that. And I'm like, what? That's like kicking out your mainstay of people who go to your restaurants. Do like Burger King did when I was there a couple of years ago, and have bouncers if that's what it takes. You'll get more money from the kids being in and pay a bouncer than what you're going to do by kicking the kids out and not having any income coming in. But anyway, I'm not in charge of McDonald's, so it's not up to me. Russians are to buy rockets, artillery and artillery shells from North Korea. North Korea. Is Putin that desperate that he's buying stuff from North Korea? I mean, that's like, I don't know. It just beggars belief that is a thing. The bad news is that shelling has started again near the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant in Ukraine. Now remember, this is the plant that's the biggest in Europe and has had its structural integrity damaged by the war, and I keep saying that there should be a war crime, that if you send missiles within 1 mile of a nuclear facility of any kind other than a nuclear powered vehicle, then that should be a war crime. And if you militarise within 1 mile of a nuclear area, then that should also be a war crime. So Russia would get done for militarising the actual power station itself. Mind you, there's more serious things they've done, but still, make it a war crime. And Ukraine would get done for firing rockets at them as well. So, but yeah, we shouldn't be playing war games next to nuclear plants. It just should not be a thing. Brazil, the president is bonkers, insane, stupid, mad. But his government are saying that they're going to ban iPhones if they're sold without chargers. And so they should, because what's the point of buying a rechargeable item without the device to recharge it, that they then sell separately for like stupid amount of money for a cable, and then say if you use any other cable it voids your warranty, so you have to use this cable. No, include it in the phone. Nintendo should do the same thing with their handheld things as well. There are ways around it. Oh, we ship them all over the world. Yeah, I know you ship them all over the world, but why don't you do like other companies do? So basically USB or an adapter and then just have different plug teeth pins on it that clip on and off for the country that it's gone to, be it America, Europe, England, whatever, and do it that way. Be much easier. Texas teen was killed in a crash by a suspected drunk driver. Now, I wouldn't normally show this, but it then says hours after he was released on parole for his latest driving driving under the influence charge. So he'd only been released hours before. He then somehow got drunk, got in a vehicle, and has killed this 14-year-old lad. Again, beggars belief that these things are allowed to go on. I've already done this one. Oh no. A Russian warplane, driving while intoxicated, thank you. A Russian warplane shot down as Ukrainians mount counter-offensive. So there was dramatic footage that I've not seen because it was on Wednesday. Showed Ukrainian forces shooting a Russian ground attack vehicle out of the sky as the counter-offensive continues. So all good at the end of the day. Although I do know that the Russian army is now full of people who've been either stupidly volunteered and been undertrained, or are being conscripted now because a lot of the army has been incapacitated by the Ukrainians, and these are sons, brothers, husbands and whatnot of families in Russia. But there's only one person to blame for all this, and that is Putin. End of. A male lobster listed as seafood to avoid angering restaurateurs. An environmental group put the region's renowned lobsters on a list of seafood to avoid because their harvest is allegedly putting whales in danger. It's now focusing on the seafood, and it's saying that it's a red list that lobsters are being shipped. It's these do-gooders again. I mean, yeah, I don't see how a little basket with a lobster in it is going to affect whales. Whales, as far as I'm aware, do not eat lobster. They eat krill, and, or if there are other whales, they eat other whales. Although technically killer whales are not whales. Anyway, here's a good one. West Virginia coal miners rescue a couple stranded in a broken down electric car. So the electric car ran out of charge, as they have a habit of doing, and it got pushed by some coal miners to the coal mine, where it was then plugged in and charged up so that they could continue their journey. Putin, he's back. Putin and China's Xi to meet for the first time since the Ukraine war. Didn't realise the irony. No, the irony is so much. Electric car being charged up at a coal power station, coal mine. Yeah, fantastic. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping will meet next week at a summit in Uzbekistan, marking the leaders' first in-person encounter since the start of the war in Ukraine. They have been working together, as you know. They did their exercises and all that kind of thing, military exercises, not like, you know, yoga with what's he called, that guy who does exercises in Britain during lockdown. It really irritated me with the beard and the hair and everything. Anyway, no, not that kind of exercises, military exercises, so scary exercises. Foreign nuclear secrets amongst documents found in Trump raid. So not only did Trump take documents that was about American nuclear stuff, but he also had foreign nuclear information that should not have been out of the White House taken when they raided their thing. Sorry, I'm getting confused why I put this one up, but I remember now. Celebrated horror novelist Peter Straub dead at 79. Horror novelist Peter Straub died on Sunday at the age of 79, his family said. he's written. I don't read books. I'll be honest with you. I just can't be arsed. I don't watch movies either, so it's not like I don't read books as soon as I watch the movie. I do that because I can't be arsed with that. But I have read some Peter Straub horror books because I like them, along with James Herbert, Stephen King. I put them all in the same group, and like before I started doing YouTube and everything, if I was really bored, about every 6 years or whatever, I'd just read about 10 books in a year and then stop reading and never read again. But obviously now I'm doing other stuff, busier, working for myself, all that kind of thing, so reading is not a priority. But I do remember reading some of his books, in the 80s and 90s, and I quite enjoyed them. I preferred James Herbert and Stephen King, but his books, they were different. They have a different slant on the horror genre, so if you ever get a chance and you read, have a read. Biden says he plans meeting with China's Xi Jinping at the G20 if he's there. Now, Xi Jinping has already said that he's going to meet Vladimir Putin, so I don't know whether that means that if he does, Biden won't meet him because he's met and fraternising with an enemy, or whether he will meet him. Either way, it's in November, anything could have happened by then. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Putin threatens to cut off Russian energy to West as Europe plans price caps. We've already covered that, but America were covering it as well. But I think they were covering it from the angle that they can send gas to America. Talking of which, Liz Truss is keen on fracking, and I'm quite keen on fracking as well, to be fair, at least for the short period, because we need gas, we need reliable gas, and we shouldn't be relying on other countries. But we also need to get rid of gas, which is why we need to work on hydrogen, blah blah blah, but I've done that before. A Florida woman named Tupac Shakur charged with beating a man with a baseball bat. Well, that'd do it. A Florida woman who changed her name to Tupac Shakur was arrested for allegedly attacking an elderly man with a baseball bat while he was sat on a bench outside of a hospital in her home state. Yeah. At least it wasn't a gun, I suppose, but still. Meghan Markle, I told you she'd appear again. It was reported in the American press that she skipped going to Balmoral because she wouldn't be welcomed. Meghan Markle stayed behind in London rather than joining her husband Prince Harry at Queen Elizabeth's bedside in Balmoral on Thursday, out of concern she may not be warmly welcomed. Well, yeah, she wouldn't be warmly welcomed. Like I said before, she's like the Yoko Ono of the royal family. Yeah. Man evades cops by climbing on power lines before capture. Well, he didn't evade cops, did he? He got caught. But basically, he climbed up and hung from power lines, which were turned on, and then realised he couldn't go anywhere, and then got caught. Brilliant. A footbridge in Congo collapsed during the ribbon cutting ceremony. Kind of takes us back to the Millennium Bridge in London, which was obviously 1999-2000, which is the bridge that when you cross it, you're looking straight at St Paul's Cathedral across the Thames. But when they first put it up, it used to do that, but more than that, do that a lot, shake and wobble and roll, and they had to close it, and then they had to make it sturdier again. This thing was being opened and it collapsed. Thankfully, not many people were seriously injured, if anyone, and the bridge probably will get rebuilt, although we don't know. No quidding, Charles III to be featured on banknotes and coins. Well, it's obvious he's going to be featured on banknotes and coins. He's the king. This is what I said yesterday on my drive home from my mother's. The things are going to change. For most of my life, all the coins that I've touched, held, all the notes I've had the Queen's head on them. Not literally, I mean an image of the Queen's head. A bit weird. As I've stamps, as I've pictures in post offices, behind the counter, schools, in Parliament, everywhere. The Queen's been everywhere because she's been the monarch for 70 years. So we've had 70 years of her image being on coins. I do remember some George coins, which were still being used when decimalisation came in, which were the old shillings. And the coins we've got now will probably be around even after King Charles has passed on as well. But coins that are minted from now on will have to have King Charles's image on them, as will the notes produced from now on as well. The notes will disappear a lot quicker because obviously the notes are easier to, well, they get damaged more quickly, even though these ones are meant to go on forever. They don't. They lose their pigmentation, they rip, they tear, they shrink if you put them in a dryer. So yeah, these notes ain't going to be around for that long, so the notes will change. Hopefully it isn't a picture of him now. Oh, it isn't a picture of him when he was younger, he was an ugly man. I thought you meant, I hope it's a picture of him now. It will be a picture of him now, like the Queen image has got different as the years have gone on, because obviously she's got older, and they update it every 20 years or 10 years or whatever, I don't know. So yeah, it will be bizarre when we get our first note with the King's head on it, but it'll soon become normal, and then it'll be weird that you think, when you get a one with the Queen's head on it, I haven't seen one of these for ages. That's what's going to happen in the future. Might be 2 years down the line, but that is going to happen. So yeah, there's a lot of things that need changing, stamps and everything. The post office, I mean, we're not America. The post office have put out a press release saying that stamps with the Queen's image on will still be valid. Well, of course they'll still be valid. It's not like all the notes we've got in our wallets are no longer valid or anything. But new stamps will have to have an image of the King on it. And obviously the next King as well, which will be, all being well, Prince William, who's now the Prince of Wales. Keep up. Tourist. Now, tourists are getting this option of going to space, or now you can actually go down and visit the Titanic if you pay enough wonga for it. There are applications to join the 2023 team to actually go and visit the wreck of the Titanic. I mean, why would you want to go and look at something where so many people died in such a tragic way? I mean, it's one thing to go through the history of it and watch the movies and all that kind of thing. Go to the museum in Liverpool, it's got a lot about it. The one in Belfast, it's got a lot about it. That's different. But to actually get there and then just go down to where all these people died, in my head, that's a bit sick. Dark tourism is interesting. Well, yeah, I suppose they're both dark, aren't they? Because going down in the water to look at somewhere where loads of people died, that's dark in one way. And then going up into space, that's obviously dark in a different way. Anyway, yeah, but not many people died at Chernobyl. I want to go to Pre-Czech. There's very few places I want to go to. I don't even have a passport, so I ain't going anywhere, and I've not had any, so I ain't going anywhere. But the place that I want to go is, oh no, just going to contradict myself completely. Oh, I'm fuming. Pre-Czech, or Pripyat, whatever it's called, near Chernobyl, although not at the moment, for obvious reasons. The island off the Japan coast that used to be Mining Island, I want to go there. I just love abandoned places. Abandoned engineering is one of my favourite TV programmes. Pompeii, I want to go to Pompeii as well. I know, I've just contradicted myself. I never said I was clever or anything. I've just absolutely monumentally contradicted myself. Because how many people died in Pompeii and Herculaneum, which I'd also have to visit as well. So yeah, but I'd have to sneak out of the country first. Probably nick a plane and just fly over and then land in a field somewhere and then just say, no, I'm a proper tourist. Although I can't fly, so that's not going to happen either. Ukrainian Defence Ministry quotes rapper Pusha T to promote Russian kill counts. So the Ukrainian Ministry of Defence, if you have Netflix, there's a TV show called Dark Tourism, and it has all that you're talking about. I have access to Netflix, but I've never heard of it, Dark Tourism. But I watch Abandoned Engineering, and that's brilliant. I love Abandoned Engineering. And they've done all them places anyway, and all the stories about them and everything. And then some other places, including, there's a place up in Scotland that used to be a training place for priests, and that's been abandoned, but that's a fairly new building, and apparently people go there all the time, so I kind of want to go to that one because it's like nearby. No one died. Tourism, really interesting. Quite surprised by what else I think. Anyway, Ukrainian Ministry of Defence has swag. In the midst of a successful counter-attack in the north, where Ukrainian forces pushed 30 miles into occupied territory, the ministry boasted its latest tallies of Russian kills with a lyric from Bronx-born rapper Pusha T. I put the numbers on the board, great taste in music to the win. The rapper is also known as King Push, replied, Ukraine's staggering estimate 50,000 troops of Russian origin are no more, or injured. Right, this is sick. This is beyond sick. Irish soccer fans celebrate the Queen's death by chanting, it's not an obscenity, but I'm not repeating it. Video has emerged showing the Irish soccer fans mocking the death of Queen Elizabeth II during a game in Dublin on Thursday. Set to the tune of Casey and the Sunshine Band, hit Baby Give It Up. The Talgat Stadium just hours after it was announced that she'd passed away. I mean, there's a time and a place for mockery, and that ain't it. So I think what we should do is we should just put a hard border between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, and then just chuck a load of alligators in there, because that is beyond sick. I mean, I have a sense of humour and all that, but no, definitely not. And not within, what, less than 2 hours of the announcement. Cher called the Queen a cow in a bizarre Twitter tribute. She meant to put goat, but put cow. And if you don't understand what goat is, greatest of all time. I didn't either. When people were calling Lewis Hamilton a goat, I thought, yeah, I'll agree with that. Then it turns out greatest of all time, and I'm like, no, he's not. Ayrton Senna, Michael Schumacher, Fangio, they're the greatest of all time. Lewis Hamilton's just driven the best car at the right time. As we've seen, at best, he's a better than average driver. Now he's in an average car. Anyway, I digress. She referred to the late monarch as a cow. It was a heartfelt social message on Thursday night, and reminiscing when she first met her in 1988. But she called her a cow instead of a goat. Brilliant. I love Cher. And then another Queen one. Putin draws jeers for tribute to Queen in a letter to King Charles. He will skip the funeral. Well, there's a surprise. Vladimir Putin is not going to come to the funeral of the Queen, but has referred to her death as an irreparable loss. Rightfully enjoyed the love and respect of her subjects, as well as the authority on the world stage, which is a bizarre thing for someone like Putin to come out with. Let's be honest, it's not normal, is it? Not for him anyway. And that is it for what's going on in America. I was going to show you, remember last week I showed you a picture of myself on the canal side when I got hot and sweaty. Well, this week I've actually deliberately got a picture of myself, and this is me when I'd walked, if you know Wigan at all, from the centre of Wigan to my car that was parked in Tesco car park, which is not far at all, and I was literally soaked beyond my skin. It took me 2 days to dry my shirt out and 3 days to dry my shorts out before I put them in the wash. because if I put them in the wash wet, they would have just gone musty and stunk the place out, and I've just done a dark wash, so I don't want to, you know, stink the house out. So yeah, that was me getting wet. And we will leave it with quite a fitting image, I think, of Her Majesty the Queen. Where she was waiting for the new Prime Minister to turn up, and this snap was taken not knowing that 2 days later she would have passed away. But I say, we've got to remember, no matter what your thoughts are on the royal family, that, you know, she was a mother, a grandmother and a great-grandmother and a family person. She was 96 and well respected by millions of people around the world, and will be missed, possibly in more ways than we can think of. So may she rest in peace, and I'm pretty sure it won't be the last time we talk about the Queen, because we've got the lying in state and the funeral to come as well at some point in the near future. But yeah, we will leave that there. Thank you very much for watching, listening. Thank you to JT and Rachel, Angela O'Kane, Smiley Mac, Phoenix Hero, for joining in the conversation. And all being well, we will see you again another time. As like I say, we've covered a lot of serious issues today, but hopefully I've done it in a more light-hearted way, but not in a disrespectful way. Like I say, the Queen had a sense of humour, so I'm pretty sure that she wouldn't have objected too much to this broadcast. In fact, I don't know, she might have watched them on a regular basis. They've been going on for a while now. So you take care, look after yourselves, stay safe, and God save the King.